everyone. A really warm welcome to everyone who's joining us today for our live student life session. We'll be with you for the next kind of 45 minutes up to an hour to chat through what studying at Glasgow is like from a student perspective. Our lovely panel today will be covering topics such as sports, clubs and societies, and have really good top tips for making the most of your student experience as well. If you are watching with us live, you can ask us questions through the text chat, and our colleagues behind the scenes will do their best to answer these for you as we go through the session. So firstly, just to introduce myself, my name is Alice. I work here at the University of Glasgow in the External Relations teams. And I'm joined today by a lovely panel, and we will just go through and let them introduce themselves. So Melody, I'm going to come to you first for your introduction.
Okay, thank you so much, Alice. Hi, everyone. My name is Melody, and I completed my Master's in Public Health from the University of Glasgow, and I was the president for the Nigerian Student Society at University of Glasgow as well.
Perfect, thanks, Melody. Carl and Chloe, I'll come to you next, a little double act that we've got on screen at the moment. Carl, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Carl Kirkpatrick. I have recently graduated from the University of Glasgow, so I studied an undergraduate in International Relations and Social and Public Policy, and I now work in the sabbatical role as the president of the Glasgow UofG Sports Association.
Perfect, thanks so much, Carl. And Chloe, over to you.
Hi, I'm Chloe Drew. I also just finished my undergrad studying geography, and I now work for the University of Glasgow Sports.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. So now that we've got through the introductions, we'll get started with the first question of the day. And the first one we're going to go for is a very kind of general question. Can I turn to each of you and ask you for your thoughts, on the University of Glasgow main campus? Do you have any favourite places to spend your time on campus, and why might that be? So, Carl, I'm going to come to you first.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, we have such an amazing campus. Obviously, we can see the main building behind your head there, Alice. It's like we're just really lucky to have this. Everybody sort of compares it to Hogwarts, and they're right. Like, it's just an incredible building. In terms of where I spent most of my time when I was a student, probably in the library. It's a really good study space, and it's a really good place to go to get work done. And we also have some great social spaces on campus as well, like the GUU and the QMU, which are great for food and for drink too.
Perfect. Thanks, Carl. Chloe, what is your kind of favourite place on campus and why?
I think very similar to Carl. Whenever I was studying, I was always in the library. Level 5 was my favourite go-to spot. But around campus, so many good places to go. Whenever I was with my sports team, with my friends, I spent a lot of time in the union. It's just a really good place to meet other students. They put a lot of really fun events on during the year, which is great to get involved with. That's the QMU and the GUU. And then there's so many cafes and bars and restaurants around campus as well. So it's really nice to be in kind of the centre of a city on campus and able to access that as well.
Yeah, that's right, Chloe. I think that's one of the good things of having that kind of balance between studying, but also having the city all around you as well. Melody, last but not least, what's your favourite place on campus?
I was going to say initially, I was thinking of the library as well, but it's not my favorite place. It's just the place I spent most of my time, especially when you're writing your dissertation. It just helps you to focus. But I think for me, it was my school building, so the Clarice Peirce building. That's where the School of Health and Wellbeing is based. So it was really cool. It's a new building, so it's very fresh, very dog-friendly, pet-friendly. So I just loved going there. There's a cafe there as well. And there's just like access to a lot of things, a kitchen and so many other facilities. So I'd say the Clarice Peirce building, but I'll also say the JMS is a good place for people who don't want to come to CPB or just don't find it as great or fascinating. The JMS is also a really big and beautiful place to just relax, study, or just meet up with friends. There's food, there's a cafe, and it's very, 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 very chill. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Melody. I will have to go and visit the Clarice Pierce building if it is pet and dog friendly. That sounds fantastic. But yeah, it's really good to see like the kind of different areas where students can study on campus, as well as kind of getting a bit of downtime and maybe grab a cup of tea or coffee as well. So we'll just move on to our next question now. Chloe, I'm going to come to you. So you work for UofG Sport. Would you be able to tell us a bit about the sports facilities that we offer here at Glasgow?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of have two main campuses for the two different sports facilities. So we have the main campus, which is called the Stevenson building. And then within that, you've got the swimming pool, which is 25-metre swimming pool, and also a sauna and a steam room that all the members can use. We have a cycling studio that they do live classes in, and also virtual reality classes. We've got an activity hall, sports hall, squash courts. All of those you can book out and rent, and a lot of the sports teams use them throughout the week. And then we have another site which is called Glasgow Sports Complex, and that site's got more of our outdoor sports. So we've got 2 3G pitches, we've got about 6 grass pitches, tennis courts, and also another smaller gym facility there as well. So kind of all the clubs use it, but we also have community members come and use it, staff, and it's really just a great hub. We run loads of classes throughout the week. So kind of your normal gym classes, like yoga, Pilates, kind of kettlebells, box fitness, all that, but also a lot of building confidence in the gym. So kind of learn to lifts or group strength trainings. We've just started a women's only hour as well. So we're really focusing on like trying to build confidence for people in the gym and have a positive experience for them when they come.
Yeah, perfect. Lots of different options for students when they're here at the university in terms of sport and the facilities that we have, which is fantastic. Just following on from this, Carl, I'm going to come to you. You're currently the president of GUSA, our sports association. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about the role of GUSA and the sports clubs that the students can get involved with there?
Of course, yeah. So GUSA works in partnership with UofG Sport. UofG Sport kind of run the facilities, as Chloe has mentioned, and we're more kind of like the student voice, the representative side for students who are involved in sport at Glasgow. So in terms of our clubs, we've got 51 clubs, really every sport you can imagine, from the kind of more mainstream sports to the more niche sports. You can find out information about all of these on our website or at the reception at the Stevenson building or at Glasgow. But it really is something for everyone. In terms of the other stuff GUSA does on top of our clubs, we run events, we provide grants and funding for students, we run wellbeing and welfare initiatives, and we do like outreach stuff with local schools as well to get school children involved in sport. So kind of really wide reach of things.
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, like much wider than just kind of the sports clubs we have on offer. Lots of different things going on with GUSA, so that's really good to hear about. A little bit more generally, I'm going to come to you next, Melody. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about the clubs and societies that students can join when they're coming to the university?
Okay. So yeah, there's like 1,000,001 so many societies that you can join. Aside from the clubs that are under GUSA, there's so many societies that you can join through the SRC. So the Student Representative Council has a website that you can check, and you'd see access to how to join any society. We have so many, from ranging to different categories. There's culture, there's language, there's social, there's health, there's anything you can possibly think of. And if you're not able to find a society on there, you can start a society and then reach out to SRC to affiliate with the SRC, and then you can be officially registered with the school. So there's so many societies that you can join. Like I said, I was the president of the Nigerian Student Society at University of Glasgow, and to join is just very simple. You search us up, Nigerian Student Society, on the SRC website, and you'll be asked to just click a button to just say you want to add this to your basket, and you go to checkout, and that's it. Then you become a member. And some memberships require you to pay a fee after you join or when you join. Some are completely free, but it's not like a fee that, it's just like a membership token that just covers you for the whole year. So there's so many societies that you can join, and really you have the best time when you have community here with you as well.
That's fantastic to hear about, Melody. I think obviously when you're coming to the university, you often are, it's a really exciting time, but it can be a bit nerve-wracking when you're coming to university. So it's always nice. There's lots of different kind of clubs, societies that you can join in terms of getting that community around you, and people who have similar interests to you, which is always good as well. So you can continue with those kind of side of things. So kind of changing over a little bit from kind of the clubs and societies. So today there will be a separate accommodation sessions taking place throughout the event today. But I just thought it'd be really interesting to get the student perspective or to how to find your own experiences, in securing accommodation at the University of Glasgow. So just the kind of experiences that you have all had in terms of securing accommodation. Would you be able to tell us what your experience was like living in Glasgow as a student and what kind of accommodation you managed to secure? So Melody, I'm going to come back to you firstly for this one. How did you find that experience?
Okay, so I currently still live in Glasgow, and Glasgow is a beautiful city. It's somewhere that I would advise anybody to come to, if you just want to enjoy yourself, but also enjoy the serene, the history, so many benefits of living here. For me, I lived in a private accommodation. So there are student accommodations that are privately owned by some companies or institutions. And so I stayed in one of those, and that was absolutely lovely. It was fine. Yes, it is a bit more pricey than the student accommodations that are being offered by the university. But my advice would be to apply for a student accommodation as early as possible. In my case, I had applied, but I went with the private accommodation instead. But the student accommodations were absolutely fine. I had friends who stayed in those, and they had a good time there. So it was just based on preference. I just wanted to be in my own space alone. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I stayed in a private one, but the student accommodations are great, and I'll just advise that you apply in a good enough time so that the school can offer you one of their best. Yeah.
Thanks, Melody. Carl, I'm going to come to you next about your accommodation experience at Glasgow.
Thanks. So yeah, obviously I moved over here from Belfast when I was in first year. Moved over during COVID and then went into university accommodation. So moved into one of the large Murano flats. I was in there for my first year, and then since then I've been in private let accommodation. My experience of accommodation in Glasgow has been pretty good. I've really enjoyed kind of like living with friends throughout university. First of all, lived with in second year friends that I met in Murano, and then went on to live with people that I met through playing sport at university. So I think I would agree that you should apply early, but my experience has been pretty good.
Thanks, Carl. And Chloe, I'm going to come to you lastly for your experience in accommodation as well.
Yeah, so quite similar to Carl. We came to Glasgow at the same time, but I was actually in Cairncross accommodation, which was a bit of a different setup, and it was more your room, and then you were assigned a kitchen rather than in a flat setting. I wasn't in the UK when I actually applied to the accommodation, but I still found it a really easy process. And everything was just done online, and it's able to email if I had any questions, and secured it, and that was absolutely fine. But obviously COVID, very different situation to what I think is happening now. After COVID, into my second year, I got a 5-person flat with a group of friends that I made in my first year accommodation. Still really good friends with all of them. And that is the same with everyone I've met in Glasgow. Become really close, good friends with everyone. And that's continued throughout my whole time here. And then in third year, I found a smaller flat. I think I just wanted a bit more of a kind of quieter, calmer lifestyle as I was moving up through the years, and the work was getting a bit more intense. So yeah, I went into a 3-person flat, which was also quite easy to find. And then I've stayed in that since. So I've been there for a good few years now. I think because I'm from England originally and they have quite different renter rules, it was quite interesting coming to Scotland. So I think it's really important to kind of learn about the laws here when you're going and signing a contract and making sure that you understand what you're signing. Because obviously I know some people have had difficult situations, but just knowing straight away what you're going in for and what you're signing is really important. But actually finding the flats, most things are of quite good quality and a reasonable price, so it's been okay.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chloe. And I think it's interesting to hear from all of you because it's all kind of like maybe similar but slightly different in each way of how you've kind of gone through the accommodation process. Obviously, Melody with her kind of private student accommodation, through to you both where you stayed in student accommodation. And it's a really good way to then meet people who you might not meet normally kind of on your course if you're in that student accommodation at Glasgow initially. And then you can go away and kind of find your flats and then maybe downsize into smaller flats, Chloe, as you're maybe focusing on getting your studies kind of completed and things like that as well. And a really good point in terms of like the legalities of things. You know, a lot of advice is there in terms of making sure that you know your rights when you're finding accommodation. So through our SRC, they give brilliant advice on accommodation and things like that. So no, that was really interesting for me to hear as well. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our next question. So at Glasgow, you know, we have a really diverse student body with international students who join us from all over the world. So we're very lucky in that aspect. Melody, can I ask you to tell us a little bit about like what it was like to move to Scotland? How did you feel when you were settling in? What that whole experience was like? Because it's a big kind of move for you, and how you found that when you came to Glasgow.
Thank you for that question. I think for me, it was quite smooth. For me, transitioning was quite smooth. I think the hardest part is just leaving family and just moving to a new place on your own, or just a different place where you have to learn the culture of the place that you're coming to, and you're bringing your own culture to wherever you're going to. So I think for me, it was smooth. The information that was required for everything that I needed to do was available online. So University of Glasgow has access to every information that international students need. Any questions you might have, there are also contacts available as well. So taking advantage of that is something that I would recommend. When I came, I didn't really have issues when it came to accommodation or things like that. But I know that if I ever needed help with anything, sometimes the school would even reach out to international students via email, or we could just ask our questions really because we had access. So I'd say moving was okay, it was fine. I think it's just adjusting to the Scottish weather, adjusting to the phrases, adjusting to just wee things here and there that were just different from what I had known. But one thing I'm sure of is that you have a great time in Scotland because Glaswegians are the sweetest people ever. They're really, really friendly, and I just think that you'd have a great time as long as you access all the information that you need. And truly, I felt welcome when I came. University of Glasgow has never made me feel any type of way. So I would just say that it was the best experience moving, and I'm glad that I did.
Thanks, Melody. And I'm already picking up a lot of Scottish kind of from you. You said wee things there, which I think is quite Scottish from what I've heard whenever I travel. People wonder what I'm saying when I say wee. Just following on from that a little bit, Melody, how did you feel? Like, did you feel supported by the university when you first arrived in the country, obviously with that big change? Did the university get that good level of support from the university?
Oh yes, I did. I believe I did. The experience was smooth, like I said, and when I did come in, that there's like so much support that you can access, either from the SRC, from international student support, from UofG, just any inquiries at all, I did feel supported. And whenever I had like questions or queries, I could reach out and get the necessary answers that I needed. But yes, I definitely felt supported when I first came in. Even through like the teaching system, all of that. Like I said, Glaswegians as people, or even just people who have been in Glasgow for a very long time, are really friendly. So I did feel supported from the get-go. We're always encouraged to ask questions, always encouraged to reach out. And yeah, I definitely felt supported.
That's brilliant to hear, Melody. I'm glad you felt that way, and that's obviously what we try and aim for at the university, to make it kind of as easy and as smooth a process as possible when you're arriving, no matter where you're arriving from. But obviously, if you're international and you're changing country completely, it can be quite a daunting process. Just on the back of that as well, we do at the university, we do have a whole range of support services here to really ensure that you feel supported really from the moment and the minute that you arrive in Glasgow. Along with our international student support team mentioned by Melody earlier, who provide us with kind of visa and immigration advice, as well as an orientation programme. We do also have support services such as our disability service and counselling team, who are on hand to help anyone who is looking for a little bit of additional support throughout their time at university. We also have our student learning and development and careers service, and they are there to help with advice on finding part-time work, for example, and as well as giving you kind of the tools to help you reach your future career goals as well. In our Fraser building, which is located on our main campus, you'll know it as soon as you kind of arrive at the university. It's kind of a blue and green building. You'll find our student services inquiry team, who can help with a range of inquiries on arrival, as well as with that kind of registration and enrolment, as well as the registration and enrolment support team as well, who are housed in there. So within each subject area, we do have a dedicated student support officer who can be your first point of call for any issues that you may be facing at university. And we do also have a fully trained peer wellbeing support team as well, who are always around to listen and to provide support. So I think the main thing is that when you're coming to university, there's a lot going on. It's a whole new kind of game for you, but there are a lot of those services there. So please make sure that you're reaching out if there's anything that you kind of need support with at all during your time here. So just moving on from that, onto our next question. For those tuning in who have never studied a master's before, can you tell us how many hours of teaching you would have roughly per week? And Melody, I'm going to come to you. You're not getting a break from speaking at the moment, but would you be able to kind of give those students a rough idea of kind of those teaching hours that they might expect?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. So peculiar to my course, but I think this is also a bit more general. So I studied the Masters in Public Health course or degree, and we had roughly about 6 hours per week. So it was three courses at first for us, and I think the max for the amount of hours we had was like 2 hours or so. So it ranges between like 6 to 8 hours a week. It's not that much, but it's very impactful, and of course it's not too tedious or too long. But I know that this might vary for some other master's classes, but I don't think it's going to vary so much. So you're not going to be in class every single second of every day at uni. No. For your masters, if you're doing a postgrad taught or a postgrad research, I did a postgrad taught course, which also involves research, but it was mostly in-person classes, and we had just about like 6 hours, I think, yeah, per week. And if at all it goes higher than that, maybe you needed to reschedule, or you have like another assessment, or yeah. So it wasn't that long. You're not in class every single hour of the day. You still have personal time to do other things, study, go to the library after classes, or even before your class, depending on when it's been scheduled. So yeah, it was quite good. So I don't think it was more than 8 hours max per week that we had. So yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Melody. And I think that's it. It's you do have time to do other things, but also continue with your studies outside the classroom as well, because that's part of it. You're learning beyond just those classes that you're taking in those hours. But obviously you mentioned kind of personal time, where there's a lot of time where you can do other things out with just your study. So kind of on the back of that, I suppose, how feasible, Melody, would you find it that it is to work part-time during your master's degree? Can you tell us a little about your own experiences of working during kind of your studies at the same time?
Okay, so I would say that it's feasible. There's so many questions that I get, and this is one of them. It's quite frequent. But yes, you can work part-time while studying. I think the number one tip, or the first tip I'd give, is for you to schedule and plan accordingly. You came to school, so that should be your number one priority. I understand it might be a bit tough. You need to pay bills. Maybe you're even paying part of your school fees, but I would just prioritize school first and make sure that work is not clashing with that, if at all you want to get a job. So yes, there's so many part-time opportunities. There's so many opportunities that the university advertises. So you can check the opportunities hub. There's so many roles available. I got my part-time role, I think, looking through the opportunities hub. So I work part-time with University of Glasgow as a student content creator. So I found that role, I think, on the opportunities hub, and then it redirected me to the link for the application for that. And yeah, so there's so many opportunities, and I think it is feasible. You can check the opportunities hub. You can also sign up for SRC volunteering, SRC opportunities, and you can get the mailings and newsletters sent to you directly, and you see the opportunities that are available on there as well. And yeah, so you can definitely do it. I just think prioritizing your schoolwork first, and then if you have enough time, you can take up a part-time role. You can get jobs at University of Glasgow. Outside of the University of Glasgow, the school advertises so many opportunities, and they're not limited to just the school only. So you have access to so many opportunities, and you can do that by just signing up to the newsletter, or just going to the site that was displayed previously. And yeah, it wasn't too tedious. So yes, you can definitely do it. You can definitely work a part-time job, and just school as well. But yeah, that's just plan and schedule.
Yeah, that's it, Melody. That's brilliant. Finding the right balance, I suppose, between your studies and getting that kind of part-time work. But as you mentioned, there, and we mentioned earlier, the career service is there with kind of a part-time job hub as part of that, to kind of help anyone who's needing that. You also need to think about, obviously, you're in the city of Glasgow, so there's lots of kind of different jobs that you might be able to get, maybe in hospitality, if you're looking for things outside kind of your class time as well, so maybe something in the evening. But yeah, lots of different ways. But yes, prioritize the studies firstly, of course, Melody, and then find your feet and find what you might want to do around that. So speaking about the city of Glasgow, a lot of people might not have ever been to Glasgow before, or maybe even been to Scotland. So Chloe, I'm going to come to you first. What is the city of Glasgow like? Do you think it's a student-friendly city? How have you found it?
Yeah, I think, as everyone has said, it is a super friendly city. I moved up here from Southern England for uni, and I found it to be a lot more welcoming and open. I've made so many amazing friendships when I've been here, and also Scotland as a whole I love. I've definitely fallen in love with, and considering staying here for a long time to come. Through playing sport, I mostly played rugby when I was at uni. I was able to travel around to a lot of different unis in Scotland, able to see different cities, which was an amazing opportunity. And I also did a lot of surfing while I was at uni, so I travelled around to a lot of different beaches, which is super beautiful. I love walking, especially, so spend a lot of my weekends up north hiking, going to a lot of the islands and going to bothies. And yeah, there's so many amazing things to do in Scotland. If you can get over the weather, a bit of rain, it's definitely worth it, and it is very beautiful and very friendly place to live.
Thank you, Chloe. Oh, those weekends sound amazing, kind of walking and going to bothies and doing all of that good stuff. And yeah, we can't have it all. The weather does
Yeah.
sometimes get in the way. But yeah, as long as you've got the right kind of gear on, then you should be absolutely fine. Carl, I'm going to come to you next. Obviously, what was your experience of Glasgow? Did you find it a student-friendly city? How do you enjoy the city itself?
Yeah, no, I think completely the same as Chloe. Glasgow is an incredible city. I moved over from Belfast, and I've actually found that it is so similar to Belfast. So if there's anybody watching from Belfast, you'll know what I mean. But it's a class city, really good. The West End, obviously, where the university is situated, is great too. There's such a buzz when all of the students are here. I was here over summer when there weren't as many students here, and like there's such a noticeable difference when it gets around to sort of Freshers Week, Welcome Week. You can see all the students come in. And there's such a buzz in the West End. I know I've already mentioned like the number of sort of restaurants, bars, the number of kind of cafes, and also places that are just to kind of go for walks about the West End, especially kind of Calvin Grove Park, the Botanics, incredible. Glasgow as a city, generally, such a good sort of buzz and vibe about it as well. Yeah, I think it's great. And the same as Chloe, like would definitely consider staying here after this year's president is finished. And in the same, like Scotland in general, such an amazing place to live. I think when I kind of moved here, I sort of thought it was, you know, there was Glasgow and there was Edinburgh, and then Scotland kind of stopped above that. But like completely not at all. Like the sort of scenery up north is incredible. And you kind of forget that you're even in like the UK, I think, when you're up there, because it's just it's so different. But yeah, Glasgow, Scotland, amazing.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Especially, I totally understand that as well. Like when you're going to a new place and you don't know that many places, you just kind of think of those main areas, like you said, kind of Carl, about Glasgow and Edinburgh. But there's a lot to experience out with the city, and we're a small country, so it's quite easy to access all different places. So you can really kind of get to know the country as well as kind of the city that you're in when you're here as a student, which is ideal and really brilliant. So we're going to kind of go on from that in terms of, obviously, there is a cost of living crisis, and this can be a really kind of stressful time for students, obviously, as prices might be going up. So Melody, I'm going to come to you for this question. Do you have any kind of money saving tips for new students? Is there anything that you've been doing that you've found helpful around the cost of living?
Yes, I do. I think, like you said, it can be a bit tricky when you're trying to maybe manage your finances and prices just keep going up. But I think the first thing I would say is to budget. Budgeting always helps. I use to-do lists. I budget a whole lot. When money comes in or when I make enough money to do something, I set it aside and I break down exactly what I want to use the money to do. And I think that it also helps that when you're budgeting, and maybe when you go to do things like grocery shopping, or you're buying things, I think it also helps to actually keep the receipt. So one of the tips that I've learned recently is that when you keep the receipts, you can always check if there are differences in prices, and then you know that, okay, when you're going to the shop next time, things have gone up a bit, so that you adjust your budget accordingly and you're not over or underspending. As all you can underspend, that's good. That's not a problem. But yeah, so you can, that's really useful, and it's very important that you budget. I think that's the first tip. I think another thing that I do is I make use of student deals. I use my University of Glasgow ID card a lot. When you want to go and you want to get food from like shops, or you want to buy anything, or you even just want to do anything, once you present your student ID card, you get offers off, you get discounts. I remember when I found out, I went to Subway like 4 times or 3 times, because the prices are just way cheaper for students. So once you present your student ID card, you have access to things like that. So it's really good to have it in with you. It's very handy, gives you a lot of offers for a whole year and even a bit more. So that's another tip that I would say is very, very vital. And I think the last one that helps me is that I use loyalty cards and reward cards. So there's like the Tesco Club card for when you want to go grocery shopping. There's like the Ryman Rewards card for when you want to buy books and notebooks, pens, and stationery for school. So it really helps when you have these loyalty cards because you get things for a lot less than you would have gotten them normally. And it also gives you points. It gives you access to get some stuff for free sometimes in some places. So why not? So I think these tips really, really help, especially if you're a new student, you're an international student, or maybe you're just completely just oblivious of how things run here. I think that your best bet is to always budget, always check your expenses, look at how you can channel your funds to other areas where other areas, reduce. You can channel your funds to other things or even just savings. So yeah, I think these 3 tips will be really, really helpful, especially using your ID card, guys. Use your ID card to get a lot of things for free. So yes, that's what I'd say.
Thanks, Melody. And yes, definitely I can back that up. I'm obviously no longer a student and I am working now. So I miss my student card from those times of all of the discounts that I see in the windows throughout Glasgow that I can no longer get. But yeah, that's a brilliant one. And I think I might take away your receipt tip as well, because I'm terrible for not taking receipts when I'm going to like Tesco or something. And I think this seems more expensive than it was even like a month or so ago. So it's good just to keep track of things and kind of have a really good idea of what your situation is in terms of budget. So they were really useful. Thank you so much, Melody. So we're kind of coming towards a kind of closing, but there's a couple of things that would be good for students to hear, future students to hear, about kind of arriving in Glasgow and kind of, especially from student perspective, what your kind of top tips would be for the students who are going to be joining us next year. So, Carl, I'm going to come to you first. Do you have any top tips for students?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my main tip would be try everything. If an opportunity comes your way, take it. Especially with things like, societies and clubs and sports clubs that we've talked about, like just try out everything that you can. At the start of the year, we run kind of taster sessions with our clubs. We can go and try them out for free. Do as many of those as you can. And just don't be afraid. Obviously, moving to a new city can be hard. I definitely found that when I moved here for the first few weeks, but you kind of fall into your routine. You make friends easily, and yeah, you only have this experience once, I would say. So definitely make the most of it.
Perfect. Thanks, Carl. Chloe, any top tips from you for students who are going to be joining us?
Yeah, I would say definitely the same as Carl. Like when I came here, I didn't know anyone. So I knew I had to put myself out there if I was going to make friends. So just getting involved in as many things as you possibly can. It can be really difficult and really daunting, especially if it's maybe like a new sport you haven't done before, a new hobby, a new skill, a new place you haven't been to. But even just making one friend, talking to one person can create so many opportunities and lead on to so many other exciting things. So yeah, taking advantage of all the kind of welcome week fairs. We'll be there for sport and for GUSA, but so will all the societies, talking to all of them, going to their induction events, kind of their meeting events, the free sport events that you can go to, maybe trying some classes at the gym, basically anything that you can do that puts yourself out there. You will meet people and everyone is so friendly, and they're all in the same boat. And that's what I had to keep telling myself, that everyone's in the same situation. Everyone is maybe a bit scared, a bit anxious, but we all want to make friends and we all want to have a good time here.
Thanks, Chloe. And yeah, that's a really good point. Everyone is going to be in the same boat when they're joining university. They're all kind of coming to like different places and coming from, going to study something new. So it's really good just to kind of get involved in as much as you can. And Melody, finally to you, any top tips for students who are going to be joining us at the university?
Okay, I think Carl and Chloe have said like a good number of things. And I think it's really important that you prioritize just trying things out. You're new to the environment, but you also have to find out what interests you, learn things you've never learned before, and just take advantage of that. But I would say that you should join a community, join a community of people. It could be through the clubs, it could be through anything, that you find interesting. It could be through activities that you might have done together, and then you just form a community out of that. Or it could just be through a society and a club that you found on SRC. It's so important. I can't stress it enough. Having a community of people who are like-minded or just have the same interests as you do, or that you can just speak with and hang out with when things might seem stressful, when you just need people to talk to, or where you need people to go to places with. So I found that there's so many communities that you can access here in the UK, not just in Glasgow. So I think that's my number one tip: join a community, be a part of something, contribute to that community, make your stay here even better by doing that, and you'll just be have a good time really with people, and you make friends that you might never ever forget. I mean, we're all adults now, oh my gosh, but yes, so you have friends for life, hopefully, from these communities. So I'd say that that's my number one tip: join a good community.
Thank you all. That they were really good tips, and I think like all along the same kind of line in terms of getting involved as much as possible and getting that community around you. Because although it's daunting, you will make friends quickly when you're coming here and starting your studies at the university. So yeah, absolutely brilliant tips. Final question from me, and then I promise I won't ask you any more questions. But this one is kind of like, again, for new students who are thinking about joining us, like, what three things should new students bring in their suitcase? So, Melody, I'll come to you first. What are the three things that you think students shouldn't forget when they're arriving at the university?
Okay, I think tips. I think the first thing would be, the most important thing really is your, visa and immigration documents. Like, come with your BRP. I mean, you'll pick it up, but your passport, your CAS, all of that, please have it with you. That should be like the number one thing. Never forget it as you're going to the airport to fly, or you're taking the bus or the train. That should be with you. I think all your data information should be the first thing that you take. I think another tip would be to come with a really thick coat for the weather. It can be cold and it can rain a lot here in Glasgow, but don't worry, we have sun sometimes. But yes, it can be like that sometimes. So I would say a really thick coat, because it would rain a lot and it would be really cold sometimes. And I think the third thing would be to come with something personal, something from home, something that reminds you of where you're coming from. It could be pictures, it could be food items, it could just be anything that will make you feel a lot more comfortable when you first come here. It could be your diary, it could be a journal, it could be pictures of family. But I think that would be great as well. So yeah.
Thanks, Melody. That's a really nice mix of like documents that you really need to require, but also kind of like tips from home and like bringing some kind of home comforts with you, which is always nice when you're going somewhere new as well. Carl, I'm going to come to you next. What three things do you think new students should bring with them in their suitcase?
Very good question. First thing I would say is bring some stuff to decorate your flat with. If you move over here, you obviously, similar to what Melody said, things from home, something that you can look at and, like, better than sort of staring at bare walls in your flat. I think that's really important. Second thing I would say, bring an extension cord. That's something that I didn't bring when I moved over here and then had to go and buy one. So useful. And the last thing, I feel like I have to say this, bring a pair of trainers. Obviously, we've talked about, all the great sort of walks and everything you can do around Scotland, and even within Glasgow, for walking, for running, for all sorts of physical activity. Definitely a pair of trainers.
That's brilliant, Carl, and I liked the extension cord. That's a good practical item, and those trainers will allow you to kind of try out for any of the sports that you might want to attempt as well when you're here at the university. Chloe, last but not least, I'm going to come to you. What 3 things do you think students should bring with them in their suitcase?
Okay. Everything that's already been said is really good, so I don't want to repeat it. I want to try and come up with some new ones. So I think my first one is going to be maybe like a book or something that you enjoy kind of like doing by yourself, maybe like crocheting or something along those lines that you can do in some downtime. Uni can be quite socially draining, so it's good to have that time to recharge within yourself. The next one is from personal experience. I forgot my laptop charger when I came to uni, which was a bit of a disaster and involved a panicked phone call home to my mum. So definitely remember all your chargers, because being in a new city without a charged phone is never going to end well. And then I think I have to end on the photos or trinkets or something from home as well, just because it is really important to have that connection back home. In a new place, definitely.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Chloe. And yes, I have definitely found myself without a laptop charger before, and it's always when there is literally no battery left when you open it that you discover that's what's missing. So they're all really good. It's all like the nice range of kind of that practical information, but also to remember like a few home comforts and also some enjoyment that you enjoy doing. So like little hobbies, anything like that would really help with your time at Glasgow. So they were all really good. So thank you very much, everyone. So we are coming to a close of our session today. So I just wanted to thank everyone so much for tuning in today. For those who are watching live, remember there are still some more sessions which are running throughout the whole day today as part of our postgraduate online event. So if you head over to our website, you will get the links to all of those kind of sessions. So if there's anything else that maybe we've not covered or you're looking for anything really specific, there should be a session out there for you as well. So if you have any further questions, you're able to chat to a current student here at the University of Glasgow through our Ask a Student service. So with that, thank you very much to our panel. I really enjoyed hearing about all of the answers that our students kind of have. And thanks to everyone for watching, and we really hope to welcome you to the team UofG here in Glasgow in the not too distant future. Thank you.